So I guess I'll have to tell you guys I'm going to be a part of the class, 2013 class at
Welcome back to Irish Sports Report. We're joined now by a very special guest. We all know her well, and we're going to get to know you a whole lot better over the next couple years because you're staying home to play at Notre Dame. Skylar Diggins, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
I know you've got to be excited about this decision now that it's finally over. Was it difficult for you to finally decide to come play at Notre Dame?
Actually, yes. Just going through the process and just getting to establish so many relationships with different coaches and colleges and just having to narrow that down, that was hard. But like I can't iterate enough how much of a blessing it is to be able to choose and just to be able to have the opportunity to have such a wide variety of choice when you're making this decision. But that also is it was the most difficult for me.
Well, now that it's all over with, can you take us through the process a little bit? We've been hounding you for years about, are you going to come to Notre Dame? Are you going to go to Tennessee or UConn? I know every school in the country pretty much offered you. So just kind of take us through this whole process, if you would.
Well, it kind of started, I got my first letter when I was like in the fifth grade.
Wow.
And it was from the University of Illinois. It was from Illinois. So from there, I was like 10 years old. So they had actually, I was doing with the family. I was down there for an open gym in Indianapolis, and they were watching. So I was like, oh my goodness, like that was such a big deal to me. That meant a lot to me just to get a letter then. And then, you know, I started getting letters, more of my questionnaires, like my freshman year. And then sophomore year, more questionnaires. And then finally, September 1st of my junior year, they can start sending me mail. And that had to do with, like, you know, we want you to come here, we're interested in you, and things like that. And my first day, I got some close to 81 pieces of mail or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, like the mailman just had it was full. And I was like, oh my goodness, here we go. And I was excited, you know, and I opened every letter and read every letter that day. And, you know, they get creative with these things. Notre Dame actually sent me on the first day, it was a lot of sheets. And I had to put them on the floor. And finally it spelled out, you know, you're our #1 recruit. And I was like, oh Lord, here we go. But from then on, junior year, they keep sending mail. And finally it came to like the phone calls and stuff like that. And I got to talk on the phone with some of the coaches, you know, I got to learn a lot about a lot of different coaches.
Did it ever get old, all this mail? Was there ever a time where you're like, all right, not going out to the mailbox today, I need a break?
No, I was actually excited, you know, because talking to a lot of girls older than me that have already went through the process, and they're like, you know, you're gonna get a lot of mail. So I was kind of looking forward to it because you want to hear what these coaches have to say, you know? You want to get to know, want to make sure that you're not missing anything, or, you know, you consider everyone, and that you really take the time out to read and see what each school is talking about and what each school has to offer.
And after this long process that took years, you've settled on Notre Dame. I know you're excited about that opportunity that's coming up in the future. Why ultimately did you choose to play for the Fighting Irish?
Well, I would have to say this came down to my family. And I had also considered going to Stanford and Penn State, and it had really came down to Stanford and Notre Dame. And I was thinking my mother wouldn't be able to see me play, and she's always been at everyone. I don't recall her missing too many games, virtually none. So just thinking about not having her in the stands and just not having just this atmosphere, I couldn't do without it. And just to be around, like I said, my family and friends and the South Bend community, they've been so supportive. And just to have a great university in your backyard, why would you leave?
And I know you've been watching their games for years. You've been one of their team's biggest fans over the years. You know what kind of a caliber team you're joining. I mean, you guys have the potential to be really, really good next year. I'm sure that factored into your decision.
Oh yeah, I've been a fan for Notre Dame since, you know, Niel was playing, Coach Ivey was playing. And I was started out really young, and my dad took me to a couple women's games back in, you know, 2001. And when Jackie was playing, I was going to her games all those years. And just being a fan of Notre Dame, you know, it became to, like, you know, we have to go. We got to go tonight. We got to go tonight. And I couldn't see not going to games, to Notre Dame games, and not just being, you know, a fan and just wearing something different on my chest.
Now you're definitely going to be a lot more than a fan. But now that you've got this behind you, is it kind of a relief? Are you enjoying your senior year a little bit more and your final season of high school ball?
Oh yeah. Like I said, at the end of the process, that's when it became a little heavy. And with basketball season coming and us getting into the start of the season, I wasn't sure if I was going to make the decision or not because I just didn't know. It wasn't like I know I'm going to Notre Dame, but I'm just not going to tell anybody. It wasn't like that. It was really a decision that got put on my heart early that week of the signing period. Monday night, Tuesday, I was having this feeling like I had to sleep on it on Tuesday. On Tuesday I talked to my dad, and I was like, I'm feeling Notre Dame, and I think this is where I want to go. So on Tuesday night, I was like, well, let me sleep on it. And then when I woke up, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna tell them today. But Notre Dame was actually the last school to know where I was going.
Yeah,
I had
they
already,
had a game that day.
Yeah, they had a game that day, and I had already contacted the Stanford coaches and Penn State coaches as well. And the last to tell was Coach McGraw. And I went to the game that night, and I was in the locker room after the game, and I was like, I just want to. They didn't think I was going to sign because they didn't hear anything. They hadn't heard anything, so they didn't think I was going to sign. So when I went in there, they had the stat sheet, and I grabbed the sheet, and I'm looking at the sheet, and I'm looking like, she's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I was just wondering where you're going to put me at next year. And she's, like I said, she's just laughing because she's like, she didn't think I was going to.
Right.
And then she finally played back what I said, and she's like, are you serious? Are you serious? And then, everybody's crying and stuff like that. So we go in the locker room with the girls, and I'm like, we got to trick them. We have to trick these. We can't tell them, I wanted them to remember, I was like, we have to trick them. So we went in the locker room. She's like, I'd be really mad if Skylar wasn't here. So I walked in there, and I was like, they had just got yelled at.
Right.
So I walked in, and I was like, they were like, hey, Skylar. I was like, hi. I was looking at the sheet, and I did the same thing to them, and they just tackled me. We just all hugged each other, and it was cool. I'll never forget that.
Definitely a fun moment. We've enjoyed hearing about it. We've enjoyed following your high school career, which isn't done yet. Real quick before I let you go, do you feel like you have a little unfinished business this year? You won a state title 2 years ago, runner-up last year. Is there one more thing on your plate before you move on to Notre Dame?
Oh yeah, I definitely want to win a state title again. We do have unfinished business, like I said, my sophomore year. So I'm looking forward to the great competition we have, the great games we have coming up, and just looking forward to postseason and taking it one game at a time and going back down to state and trying to win.
All right, well, we can't wait to watch that, and we certainly can't wait to watch you play next year in the blue and gold. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we have to take another time out, but there's still lots ahead tonight on Irish Sports Report. Coming up next, Skylar's future teammates were in action this weekend, and so were the guys. Mike Bray's team looks to rebound after their loss to Ohio State. We'll check in with both basketball teams when Irish Sports Report comes back.